Thank you. My name is Pedro Mancheno. I've been living in Sweden for 1 year, working in Lifesum. It's been a great experience, and one of the things we do at Lifesum is we work a lot with new technologies released by Apple. We have a great relationship with them. So one of the things we did recently was work on the watchOS 2. And as a company, Lifesum, our goal is that we want to help people all over the world to establish and maintain healthy habits. This is not an easy task, but we're always looking for more people interested in doing this through technology. This whole work that we did eventually got us a feature on the App Store, which was pretty cool, but it didn't come without a lot of effort. And I think that working on new technologies is a bit like going into a forest without a map. So hopefully I will help you sketch a tiny map going forward into watchOS. So I would like to ask first how many people have worked in watchOS 1 at least. Okay, so not many people. That's fine, because watchOS 2 actually changed pretty much entirely. So actually the people that have not done it have nothing to regret. They can start brand new and fresh. A word of warning for those who have worked in watchOS 1 is that depending on the complexity of your app, the upgrade process can be a bit difficult, since the architectural changes have been pretty big, substantial. So let's talk about those changes. Okay, so previously on watchOS 1, I actually stole this slide from the Apple presentation. Hope they don't sue me. But the WatchKit extension was previously running in your phone, and the watch pretty much worked as a viewport. Your whole code was being executed in the phone. That means that you actually had direct access to your iPhone app without any hardships. Now, this WatchKit extension has moved over to the watch, so your watch is now responsible for executing that code. And we're pretty much freed from the phone's tyranny now. But with this power came a great responsibility and a lot of bugs when you first start delving into this whole watch world that's brand new. So let's talk a bit about the cons of watchOS 2. So since your extension is no longer running on the watch, that means that you cannot leverage frameworks in the iOS SDK. A very clear example is that we in Lifesum, we were doing UI kit animation for our watch views. We can no longer do that. We had to change that. We cannot rely on app groups to share data between the phone and the watch. That was pretty easy to set up, and it was a medium to share that was very convenient. We no longer have that. And you also require a new target. If you want to keep your watchOS 1 support, you actually need to create a new target, and that means that it can be a bit complex to share code between both projects. So we also have, of course, the pros of using watchOS 2. And the first one is that you have a standalone experience. This means that, for example, you will no longer see a spinning wheel when your phone is off or away from you. You, for example, could build a calculator that works totally independent of the phone and just, cheat on exams or something using the watch. Another thing is that the app runs much faster since the code is being executed on the watch. Same for loading times when launching. This might not be very noticeable if you have a non-so-complex app, of course. And you also have new features on the hardware available for use. We'll talk about those a little bit. And you also had complication support through ClockKit, which we're not going to delve too much into, but we're going to talk about a little bit about complications. Okay, so obviously, not obviously, you decide, but for me, the pros outweigh the cons. And this is something that actually Apple recommends, is that you should drop support for watchOS 1 going forward and just focus on the watchOS 2 experience. I guess they believe that everyone's going to upgrade. And even this is important to know. If you don't upgrade watchOS, your watchOS app, it will still run under an Apple Watch that's running watchOS 2. So it's not that your app is going to become irrelevant, even if you don't upgrade it. So let's talk about what's new in this new operative system. We have a subset of frameworks available in the watchOS 2. Some of them are WatchKit specific, like ClockKit or WatchKit down here. I mean, yeah, WatchKit was there before, and Watch Connectivity. And we also have some of the traditional frameworks like Core Data Foundation, which is good because we can build good experiences with that. One very important absentee here is CloudKit. So if you were doing some stuff with CloudKit in your watchOS 1 app, you're going to have to still rely on the phone for that. Yeah, and like the hardware, we have new access to hardware in the watch, which is awesome because we can build brand new experiences. We have the Taptic engine, the heart rate sensor, accelerometer, and the microphone, which I'm really curious what people are going to work around this. Yeah, so like I mentioned in our Lifesum watchOS 1 app, we were relying on UIKit for animation. Now we can actually do that in the watch, and we do this like through these properties that you can now animate. So you can change the alpha and size and alignment on your interface object, which is really cool. If you want to do more complicated stuff with visuals, you can use UI Vizier paths, and you also have access to core graphics. And there was a news going around today that they were able to port Doom into the watch. So I guess that they were doing that through core graphics, which is super interesting. Yeah. So you do this through this very familiar API. Animate with duration and animation block. You will notice that completion is absent here for some reason. I don't know why. But you can hack a bit and use the dispatch after. Don't tell anyone I recommend that you do that. And also we have a few new interface elements. For example, the alerts. They can look like this. There are a couple of different specs you can have. You have the interface picker, which is actually driven through the digital crown, which is pretty cool. That was not there before. You have several types of pickers, and we won't go too much into detail. But basically, you can stack up images or create image sequence to sort of create an animation while turning the digital crown. And of course, this list layout. Yeah, you also have interface movie, so you can actually play audio and video in the watch. I'm not entirely sure about the limitation in terms of the size or duration of the media, but I believe it's something like 15-second video. But yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. Yeah, we'll get more into that in a bit. Complications. They are this is like a fancy name for widgets on your clock face. Previously, we had Apple ones available. Now you can actually create your own complication. We created one for our Lifesum app. So we created that little guy that shows you your progress in terms of energy when tracking your food. So it's going to tell you like how well you're doing in your day. You can actually use the new feature time travel to look into the future for, I don't know, future or past events. And you can have the whole range of information displayed through time. Okay, so that's pretty much it for what's new on watchOS 2. So let's talk about a bit about the project setup, which changes a little bit now. So the main steps are to create a new WatchKit extension and a WatchKit app targets. So these need to be separate from your watchOS 1. You cannot reuse them. because the architecture has changed. You can reuse your interface storyboard object. That almost didn't change at all. You have new access to some properties through Interface Builder, but you should be able to just copy paste your storyboard from one target to another. You do have to implement this new extension delegate. So what they did is they created this concept of watch extension, which is mirroring the app delegate. I mean the UI application in the phone. I mean in iOS. So it functions the same way. It handles your app's lifecycle. So yeah, I'm gonna delve into that a little bit too in the future, like right now. Next slide. And also the notification handling has moved from the interface controller where it was before, where you would respond to notifications you would get in the watch. Now you have to move that to the extension delegate, and they have provided some methods to do that. Okay. Let me actually show you a bit of code before we go into this. Okay, so I have already set up my project, but basically the first thing you do is just go to File, New, and create a new target. And previously, I think you would go here to Application Extensions. No, actually to Apple Watch, and you would create your watchOS 1 app. Now you have a specific target for a watchOS application. This will create actually two targets, which is the WatchKit extension and the WatchKit app. Yep. And here you can see the app lifecycle methods we were talking about. You have application did finish launching, and you also have the did become active and the will resign active. These are methods that you might want to implement. And also, one thing that you're going to have to update is, like I said, your notification handling methods, which are these methods right here. You have for the ones for local notifications and the ones for remote notifications. And you will see that you have two different methods here. The reason is that you now have response info in your notification, so you can have preset text that your users can use to react to your notification. That will be delegated to this method. So yeah, this is for remote and local notifications. And you also have these two methods here that they are called whenever you get a notification while the user is actually running your watch app. So that's something to consider if you want to have some sort of interaction there. Maybe present an alert. Cool. So there's some considerations you need to have when creating your new watchOS 2 project. This is really important, actually. And this is taken straight from Apple documentation. Is that they say that the lifecycle events that we just saw, they might be intermixed with the delivery of activation and deactivation events to your interface. So that means that the ordering is not guaranteed. So, for example, if you're getting a call to application did finish launching, you cannot expect that to happen before or after the will activate on your interface controller. So think about that when you're trying to work on the watchOS app. And also, the data management is more complex now. Before, you could just tap into the data that was in the phone, but now you actually have to do some magic with Apple's frameworks. One thing to consider is that your watch extension has a container directory that looks pretty much like the iOS one. And you can make use of documents and cache. So like you were asking before, yes, you can store media in the watch. That's why we have these limitations. And they recommended that you store it in the cache so that they may destroy it whenever it's needed. And also you have documents directory where you can have more user-specific data. Okay, another thing to consider when talking about media is that the audio and video playback is actually not handled by the Watch extension. It's handled by the Watch app. So any media that comes into the extension needs to be passed on to the Watch app. And there you can use an app group. So this is something very important. And if you do nothing with the data that you're getting in the extension, it's going to be destroyed. So you have to use app groups. So like we said previously, when you were working with data between the phone and the watch, you would use app groups, or you could call into the open parent application with reply method on the interface controller. We no longer do that. So if you're doing this, you can no longer do it. You just remove that code. And now you have to rely on this, the Watch connectivity framework. Or you could also perform networking through NSURL session. In Lifezone, we're using a mix of both. So, for example, we're passing user information through the Watch connectivity framework because we don't want to have a login, for example, on the watch. We want to grab that info from the phone. But we actually created a new API that we access through NSURL session to get the data that we want in the app. So I thought I would talk a little bit more in depth about the Watch connectivity, which is something that you are going to have to use at one point or another if you currently are working with data on the phone. So let's talk a bit about Watch connectivity. Okay, so the Watch connectivity framework is available in both the iOS SDK and the watchOS SDK. It has this singleton called WC session that must be activated in both devices before, previous you want to make communication between them. You also have a WC session delegate object, that will manage this communication through methods that you have to implement. And the WC session has also methods to check reachability and availability. For example, if you want to know if the phone is reachable from the watch, or if you want to know if the watch app is installed on the watch from the phone, you can react to these changes this way. The WC session has a number of methods that you can implement that you can actually call, on the WC session that will handle the transferring of information. This is super important because, as you can see, there are a lot of methods and they need to be used in different scenarios. The first one, for example, the update application context with error is a method you want to call when you want to update, for example, the watch with the latest information, but you don't really care much about what happened before that. So this is actually volatile data, meaning that for each context that you send, the previous context is just going to get destroyed. So if you're sending a dictionary with some updated user info, the previous one is going to blow up. If you actually care about the delivery of past information, you should use the second methods, the transfer user info, or you could use the transfer current complication user info if it's something that's only relevant for your complication. Transfer file, of course, is used for transferring media or file documents. And the send message methods that you see in the bottom, they are the ones you use when you want to send information in real time, when you want to have direct communication between both devices. And one important thing to mention is that the first methods work only in background, I mean, they also work in foreground, sorry, but they can also work in background. So it doesn't matter if your watch application is not running, for example, the information will still be sent. But for the send message methods, you actually need reachability, yes. So you actually need to check if the watch is reachable, if you want to send it information. And actually the other way around, if you want to send information from the watch to the phone through the send message, you don't need reachability to the phone, because the phone will just run, the phone app will run in the background and execute your code. You can only transfer property list types since the content is serialized, and transfer wirelessly. So you can, for example, not transfer UI color. You would have to store it in an NS data object. And according to Apple, don't trust me on this one, I read it on their forums, and an Apple representative said that the communication channel is secure, and you can use it for transferring authentication data. Hopefully they know what they're doing. Demo time. Yeah, let's see some code. So for this presentation, I have prepared a very complex app that I'm going to show you next, which is called the CocoaHeads Stockholm app. And this is the watch app. This watch app allows you to set up, an emoji, custom emoji in your home screen on your iOS app. So you can control it from here. The problem is that right now this is not working, or shouldn't be working, which is good. This is because we have not done anything yet in the code. The classes that I want to show you right now is these two controllers I have created. First one is the watch to phone connectivity controller, which, as I mentioned before, is a delegate to WC session. And the other one is called phone to watch connectivity controller, which is its counterpart that is running on the phone. These are both WC session delegates. As you can see, I have commented out here the implementation of the initializing of the WC session. So let's do that. Yeah, I think my snippet is not working. Okay, I know why. There we go. So you set yourself as a delegate to the WC session and you activate it. This is all there is to it. Super simple. As you can see, my watch to phone connectivity controller has the send emoji method to be able to send this emoji. And let's implement that method. Here we go. So first I'm going to check if I actually have an emoji, and if I have one, I'm going to call the default session and send a message. As you can see, I'm not checking for reachability because, like I mentioned, you actually always have the phone reachable. The method takes a reply handler that's executed with a reply message. And actually, the phone is responsible for calling this particular block that you're sending over. And of course, you also have the error handler down there if you want to handle the error. Yeah, so this looks very, very good. And now let's go over to the phone to watch connectivity controller. I'm going to have to implement it here also. So it's the same deal. You just set yourself as a delegate and activate the session. And you have to actually implement the did receive message delegate method. So let's do that. Great. So this is the actual call method that's called when you send a message. And here you can choose to respond to it and call the reply handler block that you were sent from the watch. I think this is enough, I hope. So let's run it again, and let's see if this is working. Actually, my coworker was asking me if I had a demo, and he said that's a bad thing because they never work. So let's prove him wrong. Let's send a kiss to the iOS app. There you go. So you actually see the nice. That's a maybe. Perhaps this is the first one for CocoaHeads, at least to the presentations I've been to. So this is pretty nice. So as you might have noticed here, I actually have different background colors. So it'd be nice if I could send over the color from my iOS app or to the watch. I can actually change it from here, so I can have like a club mood in my app. And to do that, of course, we first need to implement the method to actually send that color over to the watch. So this is the only thing you need to do. Pretty simple. First, I check if I actually have a color data. And then I call the update application context method on the WC session. The reason why I'm using this one instead of the send message is because I want the color data to be sent even if the watch is not running. So it might be closed, the user might not be using the watch, but that context is still going to be sent, and it's going to wait for the watch to activate to actually deliver that data. So let's go over to the watch connectivity controller, watch to phone. The only thing I require to do here is implement the did receive application context method. So we're going to do that. And as you can see, I just get the color data and I dispatch a notification that's going to alert my view controller. This is going to be triggered as soon as the watch is active. So I think I'm going to have to launch both targets. Let's see. Oh, sorry, I did something wrong there. Okay. Okay, here come the problems. As you can see. Oh, it's because I'm trying to run on my device, sorry. I should actually be running on this one. Okay. And I'm going to have to do it on the device as well. On the iOS device. Simulator. Okay, so I have my app here. My watch app is closed, not active, and I'm going to change the color here to a pretty pink. And this should have this. Oh, sorry. What am I doing? This should have updated my iOS app application. That for some reason it's gone from the simulator, even though I just built it. That happens a lot, by the way. So don't get panicked if that happens to you. It actually says it's running when clearly it's not. Yeah. Yeah. I think the simulator might be. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I was having this problem a lot when I was developing. So if this is bad, you should have seen with the beta. It was even worse. You're going to have to do a lot of cleaning your project and resetting everything all the time. So hopefully this time it will build. Yeah, it says it's running, but it's not. Okay. Yeah, apparently it's not installed. It is supposed to be installed. Yeah, that's that doesn't tell me much. I'm gonna try just one more time. I spoke ahead of time. Thought I wouldn't have any problems here. I'm also going to clean the simulator. Let's try. That takes a long time.
How is that when you debug on the device?
When you debug in the device is actually worst. I recommend it. It's very important to debug on the device because it functions completely different to the simulator. You actually get some different order in callbacks sometimes for your interface methods. It's very crazy. So definitely test a lot on your device as opposed to the... Yeah, it's not working. It says it's running, but it's clearly not. Well, but you were supposed to see the color change. It's gonna work as soon as I'm done with this. Yeah, there's the error again. Okay, so let's move forward. So that's like 50-50, right? Cool. So here is a list of resources. I didn't come up with this. I followed a lot of what Apple was telling developers to do in the transition guide. I think you should really go into the videos that they have from DubDub, especially these 3 I mentioned. And of course, if you want to get more into watch connectivity, you should watch the last one. And yeah, the demo code is up. You should try it at your home and tell me it works. That would make me super happy. You can check it out there. I just uploaded it. Cool. Thank you.